So I've been meaning to make this video for a while now to try and convince you why the DJI Mini 2 is still worth it. But I had one more shot I wanted to squeeze in, one more trip on the horizon plan, which was one more opportunity to build a case for this budget travel drone. A case now made of footage from this pocket-sized beast. So I waited until now for this. I think I finally have enough evidence from enough different locations that if you're on the fence about getting your first drone, why I think the DJI Mini 2 is still worth it in 2023 and beyond. So like I said, I waited to make this video because every time I set out to review this product, I had a trip booked or a hike planned or somewhere truly picturesque, a place where the beauty of the environment could only be captured from above. Sure, I can get some great shots from the Sony FX3 or A7C or ZV-1, but literally nothing compares to the establishing shots that you get from up high, or just feature shots that can only be captured on a drone. And frankly, this is not any drone. This is my DJI Mini 2, the most budget-friendly compact travel drone that even a few years ago would seem ludicrous that I can put something of this quality in my pocket. And then I can take it to the California coastline at a beach in Malibu to catch some waves. Or to see this otherworldly outcrop in the desert during a once-in-a-lifetime heat wave. Or get a view above the mythic and storied Aegean Sea from across a Greek island. And then to capture the breadth of a London skyline during the Queen's Jubilee. Or just glimpse a random UFO beaming in the middle of Joshua Tree. To this, a stunning sunset from a place I once called home and still my parents' lake house in North Carolina. And then again, back to Rome, Italy to explore an abandoned 8th century castle atop a mountainside that I only spotted by looking out my window. Or just get a quick shot chilling poolside in my backyard. It's such an amazing piece of tech, but now with the DJI Mini 3 Pro out and the rumor swirling of maybe a DJI Mini 3 not Pro, the budget version coming out maybe in a year or maybe not, is the DJI Mini 2 still worth it to purchase right now? And if you have it, should you upgrade to the Mini 3 Pro? Now, I'm going to keep peppering shots here while I try to persuade you to get the DJI Mini 2 tomorrow. But I will also be giving you legit shortcomings that the Mini 2 has that the Mini 3 Pro solves, because I had my hands on the Mini 3 Pro for a few days and it is without a doubt an upgrade for a few specific reasons. But the massive caveat is it's also a huge bump in cost too. The cheapest DJI Mini 2 is around $400 to $450. And although I do recommend getting the Fly More package because the extra batteries and the charger are all essential, and the bag is a bonus too. It's like a peak design level quality bag, totally worth it all as a bundle. So that price I've seen around for $500 to $550. Whereas the DJI Mini 3 Pro, it's about $1,200, almost triple the cost. But with that, you do get the full remote, the DJI RC, which of course I'd like to have, as I wish I didn't have to hook up my phone every time and screw in the two joysticks, but honestly, that only adds a few extra minutes of setup. Now, I also wish I had 10-bit color, which the Mini 2 only has 8-bit. But as I say in almost all my videos, because I have both an 8-bit and a 10-bit camera, most of the time if you're uploading to social media, you won't be able to notice the difference. But all these shots that you're seeing now are of the Mini 2 are fully color graded, as it's really easy to work with, but it does have its limitations. 10-bit is better, but for the cost, it's just not a deal breaker. So let me give you a really brief breakdown of the specs, but I'm not aiming to make this particularly technical video because I just want to show you what you're getting because it's ridiculous. You get a drone that can travel for about 30 minutes on one battery at a horizontal speed of 36 miles per hour, which is 39 kilometers, with a maximum flight ceiling of 2.4 miles higher or 4,000 meters, and a max operating distance of 6.2 miles, which is 10 kilometers. It's just nuts. And obviously, you're likely never going to push it to those distances, but it's crazy that you can. And you can do this in 4K up to 30 frames per second or 1080p up to 60 frames per second with a 12 megapixel 1/2.3 inch CMOS sensor with a 35 millimeter focal length equivalent and an aperture at its brightest of f2.8. So it's not going to be amazing in low light, but check out this shot. I attempted to just capture my brother and his son playing tennis at sunset to see how it handles extreme backlighting, and obviously I wasn't doing a great job flying it here as I was attempting to track their movements as if I was using a tracking dolly shot, because the gimbal attached is a proper gimbal. So it actually will perform better than a regular camera or an action camera that uses only digital stabilization. And I think this shot is actually beautiful, but I could have flown it better, but it is still totally usable. So the low light performance speaks for itself. However, just to push it to the extreme, I tried it in a no light condition. So on one fateful 4th of July here in Los Angeles, when the whole city is popping off, I wanted to see if I could glimpse any of the 14 million fireworks lighting up the sky. But just so you know, you're not supposed to fly this at night unless you attach signal lights, which you can buy on Amazon and stick on easily. But as you can see or not see, these are the limits of the sensor. But this also brings me to one other feature that is nice, is that not only can you tilt the camera up and down significantly to get some cool shots with the scroll wheel, you can also digitally zoom in by holding the function button while scrolling the dial at the top. This is a cool feature that I don't use often, but it got me thinking that maybe I could do this trick shot called the dolly zoom. Now, the dolly zoom, if you don't know, is a shot made famous in Hitchcock's Vertigo or Spielberg's Jaws. It's a practical effect that you get from zooming in or out as you dolly the camera in the opposite direction. So here you fly the drone back while you zoom in. It's pretty difficult to nail, but I had to include this shot since, again, this drone can open up so many creative possibilities for your videos. However, you do also get several quick shot options, which are these 4 predetermined moves that can, in these instances, track the subject to complete a trick shot, if you will, such as a droney, which is a classic 45-degree trajectory while it's locked on the subject, or the rocket, which goes straight up, and then the circle, which circles, and then a helix, which spirals around you. Now, just make sure you change the setting to 4K video as it defaults to 1080 for some reason, and set the parameters to how high you want to go, and then hit start after you have drawn a green rectangle around your subject. Now, the app will also create a color-graded speed ramp version with corny music as a clip to share quickly. It's a cool feature, but I just tend to grade it myself and add my own music, but it is nice to have. Yet it's a bit of a tease, as it just makes me wish I could track my subject with the normal settings like you can on the DJI Mini 3 Pro, even though there are some third-party apps that will allow you to track function within the two, but I haven't tried them. Either way, to be honest, I just hit 4K 24 or 30 and auto exposure and don't fuss with it. I do also have a cheap ND filter that I use sometimes, but honestly, I think 98% of the footage is without the ND in all auto exposure, and that's all I actually need. Yet again, the only feature that I really wish I did have was this, the tracking. Yeah. And not the vertical video, but it's cool, I guess. Yeah, is all of that worth the extra $700 to $800? Well, maybe, but for me, if you've been thinking of getting into flying a drone, or you have an older, heavier than 250 gram model, then you should seriously consider the Mini 2 as a great way to get into drone videography, or to just have a travel drone to take with you on vacations. Because again, if you didn't know, but the DJI Mini 2 weighs less than 250 grams, which means you do not need a license to fly it in most places. Of course, you have rules and restrictions like any drone that you should follow, like not flying over people's heads and whatnot, but this drone can go anywhere with you and be flown almost everywhere. Now, I was obviously hoping to fly it near the Colosseum, but wasn't going to mess with the Italian military or Polizia. So there are some sites that are off limits or that you will need to register your drone for and have a license for. Or you may just need to get special permission to fly, as I have done on occasion, but literally anywhere else. And again, like this castle in Umbria near my friend's wedding venue, I flew this thing from inside my room and out the window, mostly to avoid attention from the wedding guests, but to also explore this castle across the valley. So the DJI Mini 2 does not have obstacle avoidance sensors on the sides, only at the bottom. So for better or worse, you can fly it through really tight spaces, whereas the DJI Mini 3 has a great advanced pilot assist system that will avoid obstacles, which you can turn off, but with that system you couldn't fly through a window here. So it is an upgrade, but I probably, out of fear of breaking it, won't attempt the previous fly-through shot. But I have crashed my drone several times and it's surprisingly durable. Yet the last thing that's important isn't talked about enough when getting into drone flying, as this was my first drone, as I imagine it may be for you, is drone anxiety. Now, I have social anxiety in general. I'm okay at dinner parties, as most don't know how anxious I really am, but it's a lot of effort, and so much so that I used to have to drink to socialize, but now I don't have to. However, there is still one thing that really makes me want to drink, and that is flying a drone when anybody is watching, or really just ever. And it's hard to fully grip why, and I know it's quite common, but I don't know if it's because I'm afraid I'm gonna crash it, or hit a low-flying helicopter and make that crash, or some military agency is gonna jail me for espionage, or maybe I'm just worried I'm gonna damage a medieval chapel. But drone anxiety is real, and it's most akin to performance anxiety, and it is something that does get easier the more you fly, and why I always keep the drone in cine mode, which is the slowest, most cinematic mode as compared to normal or sport, which is less forgiving with micro movements, but slower. So your video may look jumpy on sport mode, but unless you're running from a Falcon or a UFO, or you're just a super experienced pilot, I say keep it in cine. And don't forget to breathe. I tend to hold my breath when flying, but honestly, the anxiety is worth it, especially when you nail a maneuver and capture some breathtaking video. And for that, I can simply say that this pocket drone is one of the best purchases I've made in a while. So the DJI Mini 2 is 100% still worth it in 2023 and beyond. And if you're in the market for a drone and you don't know where to start, or you are looking to buy a gift for a future drone enthusiast, this is not just a great beginner or travel drone, it's really just a great drone. Now, thank you for your time and attention. I have a bunch more videos on the way, so please consider following along and subscribing. And thanks again. Bye, y'all.